Hey everyone, what's going on guys? Welcome back to Respawn Sam. In today's video, we're going to do a full deep dive into Resident Evil Requiem running on the RTX 4060. Now this is not just a quick test. We're going to go through every single graphics preset, starting from lowest, then low, normal, high, and finally max settings. So if you're planning to play this game, or you already have an RTX 4060, this video is going to give you a complete idea of what kind of experience you can expect. Alright, let's not waste any time. Let's start with the lowest settings. Alright, so we're starting off with the lowest settings, and right away the first thing I notice is how incredibly smooth everything feels. The FPS here is at its highest compared to all other presets. Movement feels very responsive, camera motion is fluid, and overall gameplay just feels extremely fast and stable. When I'm walking through the environment, turning around quickly, or interacting with objects, everything reacts instantly. There's no delay, no stutter. Just pure, smooth gameplay. Now visually, yes, things are clearly reduced. Textures are softer, details are minimal, and lighting feels quite basic. Shadows are either very light or barely noticeable. But interestingly, the game still manages to hold its atmosphere. Even with these lower visuals, the environment design still gives off that creepy Resident Evil vibe. As I explore different areas, I can see that objects load quickly and consistently. There are no hiccups or performance issues at all. During intense scenes, like when enemies appear or when there's sudden movement, the FPS remains stable. It doesn't feel like the system is under any pressure. Another thing I notice is that the game feels very light. It's like the GPU is barely being pushed here. Now moving on to the low settings, and just like before, let's take a proper look at how things change. Right away, I can see that the visuals are slightly improved. It's not a dramatic jump, but it's definitely noticeable. Textures start to look a bit cleaner, and shadows begin to appear more naturally in the environment. Lighting also feels a bit more present compared to the lowest preset. Now coming to FPS, it's still very high. You are still getting strong FPS here, just slightly lower than the lowest settings. But honestly, during gameplay, the difference in smoothness is very small. It still feels very responsive and stable. As I move around the environment, I start noticing a bit more detail in surfaces and objects. Walls, floors, and background elements look slightly better. Character models also look a bit more refined compared to before. During exploration, everything remains smooth. There are no sudden drops, and transitions between areas feel consistent. In darker areas, lighting now plays a slightly bigger role. Shadows add a bit more depth, which helps improve immersion. Combat situations also feel stable. The FPS holds up well, and there's no major impact on gameplay. The RTX 4060 still feels very comfortable here. It doesn't seem stressed at all. So if you want a small visual upgrade while still maintaining high FPS, this preset gives you that balance. Alright, now we move to the normal settings, and this is where things start to feel more balanced overall. Visually, there's a clear improvement here. Textures are sharper, lighting becomes more realistic, and shadows start to look much more defined. The environment now feels more alive. Surfaces have better detail, and objects stand out more clearly. Now talking about FPS, this is where we see another step down compared to low settings. The FPS is still good, but slightly lower than before. However, gameplay still feels smooth and playable. It doesn't feel laggy or unstable. As I explore the game world, I can see that reflections are starting to appear more clearly, and lighting effects are more noticeable. Character animations also feel more polished. In darker scenes, the atmosphere becomes stronger. Lighting and shadows work together to create a more immersive experience. During combat, FPS remains stable. It might not feel as fast as the lower presets, but it's still comfortable. The RTX 4060 here feels like it's being used more actively now. It's handling both visuals and performance together. This preset feels like a true middle ground, a balance between good visuals and decent FPS. Now stepping up to the high settings, and just like the previous presets, let's break it down properly. The first thing that stands out here is the visual quality. The game looks noticeably better now. Lighting becomes much more dynamic, shadows are deeper, and reflections add a lot more realism to the environment. Textures are crisp, and the overall world feels more detailed and immersive. Now coming to FPS, it drops further compared to normal settings, but it still remains playable. Gameplay feels slightly heavier compared to the lower presets, but not to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. As I move through different areas, I start noticing more environmental detail. Small elements in the scene become more visible. During exploration, everything looks great and runs smoothly enough. In combat situations, FPS may feel a bit lower compared to earlier presets, but it stays stable overall. Alright, now we're at the final level, the max settings, and just like every other preset, let's go through it in detail. Visually, this is where the game looks its absolute best. Lighting is at its peak, shadows are highly detailed, and reflections look very realistic. Textures are extremely sharp, and every part of the environment feels rich and detailed. Now coming to FPS. This is the lowest among all presets, as expected. But even then, it remains playable. The RTX 4060 still manages to handle the game without completely breaking the experience. Gameplay feels heavier compared to all previous settings, but it still runs in a stable way. As I explore the environment, the level of detail is very impressive. Every corner looks polished and immersive. Lighting and shadows create a very strong atmosphere, especially in darker scenes. During combat, FPS may feel lower than before, but it doesn't ruin the experience. The RTX 4060 proves here that it can handle even the highest settings reasonably well. This preset is clearly focused on maximum visual quality and immersion. So yeah guys, that was Resident Evil Requiem on the RTX 4060, tested across all settings. From the highest FPS on the lowest preset, to the best visuals on max settings. This GPU performs really well overall. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and support the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Respawn Sam, signing out.